First circle, limbo. You walk through the gates of hell, bracing yourself for the flames, but instead, it's quiet. You step into a green meadow surrounding a beautiful, towering castle. There is no physical pain here, no demons whipping anyone. This is limbo, the residence of the unbaptized and the virtuous pagans. These are the philosophers, the great thinkers, the poets, the people who lived good, honorable lives but simply didn't worship the right God or were born before religion laid down the rules. It sounds peaceful until you realize the psychological torture. The punishment here is eternal longing. They are completely aware of a higher paradise, a perfect existence just out of reach, and they know they will never ever get to see it. It is the ultimate FOMO, living forever in a state of almost. They did everything right, but because of a technicality, they are trapped in a beautiful waiting room where their names will never be called. The air is heavy, not with screams, but with a quiet, endless sigh. Second circle, lust. You step down into the dark, and immediately you are hit by a hurricane. Not a normal storm, a violent, deafening black tornado that never stops. Inside this cyclone, thousands of souls are being whipped around, smashed into each other, and thrown violently through the air without a second of rest. These are the lustful, the people who let their physical desires, their passions, and their impulses completely override their logic and reason in life. Think about the psychology here. When you give in to intense lust or forbidden passion, you say you are swept off your feet. You let the emotion carry you away. Dante says, fine, you wanted to be swept away? You wanted to surrender control to the wind of your desires? Now you get to do it forever. You are trapped in the exact storm you created in your life, entirely stripped of your autonomy, blown around by a chaotic force that doesn't care about your comfort. Third circle, gluttony. The storm stops, but now it's raining. But it's not water. It is a freezing, putrid, filthy slush of black snow and freezing mud, raining down constantly onto a desolate gray wasteland. Lying in this frozen filth are the gluttons, the people who spent their lives consuming, overeating, drinking, indulging in the finest foods and the most luxurious comforts, while producing absolutely nothing of value. Now they are stripped of their humanity. They are blind, cold, and lying face down in the mud, howling like dogs. Guarding them is Cerberus, a massive, grotesque, three-headed dog who constantly tears at their flesh with his claws. In life, these people treated themselves like animals, living only to consume. So in death, they are treated like animals, wallowing in garbage, endlessly chewed on by a beast. The luxury of their earthly lives has been inverted into the absolute maximum of physical discomfort and disgust. Fourth circle, greed. You hear them before you see them, the clash of heavy stone and the screaming of thousands of voices. Here, the landscape is a massive, dusty ring. Two groups of people are pushing giant, incredibly heavy boulders using only their chests. They push these boulders in a semicircle until the two groups crash into each other in the middle. One group screams, "Why do you hoard?" The other group screams back, "Why do you squander?" Then they turn around and roll the boulders back to the start, only to repeat the collision forever. These are the hoarders and the spendthrifts, the people whose entire lives revolved around money. One group was obsessed with keeping every penny. The other was obsessed with blowing it all on useless garbage. Their punishment perfectly mirrors their obsession. They spent their lives completely absorbed by the weight of material goods. So now they are condemned to push dead weight forever in a totally meaningless, exhausting cycle. The money they chased didn't amount to anything, just like pushing a rock in a circle amounts to nothing. Fifth circle, anger. You descend to the river Styx, but it's not a flowing river. It is a massive, dark, boiling swamp of thick mud. On the surface of the mud, people are fighting, but not with swords. They are tearing each other apart with their bare hands, biting chunks of flesh off one another, screaming, drowning each other in the filth. These are the wrathful, the people who let their explosive, violent anger consume their lives. They couldn't control their rage on Earth, so now they express it eternally in a muddy mosh pit. But there's a second group here. If you look closely at the surface of the boiling mud, you see bubbles rising from the bottom. Buried deep beneath the muck, choking on the black slime, are the sullen, the passive-aggressive, the people who were quietly angry, who held on to their resentment, sulked in the corner, and refused to appreciate the light of the world. Because they kept their anger buried inside during life, they are now physically buried in the mud mud in death, unable to speak, forced to choke on the bitterness they refused to let go of. Sixth circle, heresy. You cross the swamp and arrive at the towering iron walls of the city of Dis. This is where upper hell ends and lower hell begins. Inside the walls, the landscape looks like a vast, endless graveyard, but the tombs are open and there are massive roaring flames shooting out of the stone coffins. Trapped inside these burning graves are the heretics, specifically people who believed that the soul dies with the body, that there is no afterlife, and that human beings are nothing more than meat that rots in the ground. Dante's poet justice here is brutal. You spent your life stubbornly believing that the grave is the absolute end, that you will just lie in a tomb forever? Congratulations, you were right. You get an eternal tomb. But because you denied the immortal soul, your soul is now trapped inside that tomb, baking in eternal fire. It's the ultimate punishment for intellectual stubbornness, locking yourself in a burning box of your own close-minded beliefs. Seventh circle, violence. Things get brutal here. Violence is an offense against the natural order. So this circle is split into 3 distinct rings depending on who you were violent against. The first ring is violence against others. Murderers, warlords, and tyrants are submerged in Phlegethon, a boiling river of actual blood. The depth you are sunk into the boiling blood depends on how many people you killed. Alexander the Great and Attila the Hun are buried up to their eyebrows. If you try to climb out, centaurs patrol the banks and shoot you with arrows. You spilled the blood of others in life, so you drown in it in death. The second ring is violence against self, suicides. Because they rejected the bodies they were given, they are not allowed to have bodies in hell. Instead, their souls are transformed into gnarled, thorny, black trees. Harpies, terrifying bird women, roost in the branches and tear at the leaves, causing the trees to bleed and scream. The third ring is violence against God and nature. Blasphemers, usurers, and sodomites. They are trapped on a vast desert of burning, sterile sand, while flakes of fire rain down on them like snow. It is an entirely unnatural landscape for people who went against the natural order. Eighth circle, fraud. You drop down a massive cliff into a place called Malbolge, the evil ditches. We are now in the realm of premeditated evil. Violence is considered a crime of passion, an animal instinct, but fraud requires human intelligence. It requires you to use the greatest gift humans have, the mind, to deceive and destroy someone else. That makes it worse. This circle is divided into 10 concentric trenches. In one ditch, flatterers are swimming in a river of literal human feces because the words that came out of their mouths in life were pure crap. In another, corrupt politicians are boiled in sticky black tar, hiding beneath the surface just like their backroom deals were hidden from the public. Hypocrites are forced to wear beautiful, glittering golden cloaks that are actually made of solid, crushing lead on the inside. Beautiful on the outside, unbearable on the inside. Thieves are trapped in a pit of venomous snakes. When a snake bites them, they burn to ashes and reform, or their bodies violently mutate and merge with the reptiles. In life, they stole the identity and property of others, so in hell, they don't even own their own bodies. Every ditch is a masterclass in psychological irony, punishing the specific way humans manipulate each other for personal gain. Ninth circle, treachery, the absolute bottom of the universe. After descending through storms, boiling blood, burning sand, and rivers of fire, you expect the core of hell to be the ultimate inferno, a blinding furnace, but it's not. It is dead, silent, and freezing. It is a massive lake of solid ice called Cocytus. Why ice? Because treachery, the act of betraying someone who trusts you, is the coldest, most calculated sin a human can commit. Fraud is deceiving a stranger. Treachery is deceiving a friend, a family member, a guest, or a benefactor. It requires the total absence of human warmth. So the punishment is the total absence of heat. The sinners here are frozen solid in the ice. Some are buried up to their necks, their tears freezing their eyes shut. Some are completely submerged, twisted into impossible shapes beneath the ice like bugs in amber. And at the very center of the lake is Satan himself, not a powerful ruler of the underworld, but the ultimate prisoner. He is a massive, grotesque beast trapped waist-deep in the ice. He has 3 faces, and in each mouth he is endlessly chewing the 3 greatest traitors in human history: Brutus and Cassius, who betrayed Julius Caesar, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Jesus. Satan flaps his massive bat-like wings trying to escape, but the wind from his wings is exactly what freezes the lake. His own struggle to escape is what keeps him trapped. He is crying, blood and tears dripping down his chins.